Hello and welcome to the Sit Down with Malik Wright. I'm here with Jules, and Malik is not here currently. He is stuck in the bathroom, and now he's walking in. We'll go ahead and bring him in now. Malik, thank you for joining us. Good to be here.
We're live. You told me to start it.
He did.
Well, that was definitely, I was not expecting that, but here we go. Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode of the Sit Down with Malik Wright. Well, I guess that was with Evan McPhillips, right, to start. And Jules. We are back. We are back here live from the First Star Logistics Studio here in Cincinnati, Ohio. First and foremost, I want to thank you guys for supporting each and every single week. Got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff to get into. As always, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and join in on the discussion. This show will be talking about winners and losers of the NFL draft. I have some thoughts on a couple of teams, including our local team, the Cincinnati Bengals draft class. But you know what? I'm going to kick this one over to Evan to start us off. Evan, I'm sure you have your notes ready. I'm sure you have a lot to talk about. So let us know, who were your winners and losers of the NFL draft?
Oh man, I might have to bounce back and forth a little bit with you because I got a couple winners and a couple losers. More winners than losers, actually. I liked a couple drafts. I'm actually curious. You and I have spent a lot of time in the Bengals mock draft war rooms, discussing players that we like, back and forth. Malik, I'm curious. Can you guess who my favorite draft was? You know the players I like. I'm curious. Could you guess who my favorite draft class was?
You know what? I could probably try and guess.
My favorite draft class was the Indianapolis Colts. And the reason I like the Colts so much is you're going to hear a lot of my guys, if any of you have followed along with our mock draft series. Anthony Richardson taking the swing at the top of the draft on a guy with traits, athleticism that is out of this world, that is fair to say generational. He is a truly exceptional quarterback prospect as an athlete, and I think he offers them a lot more upside than Will Levis, who was obviously a guy who was constantly linked to them. So I like being able to take that risk, take that swing, because that's really hard to do sometimes. But then looking down the list, Julius Brents in the second round. I talked about how much I liked him throughout this draft process. He's 6'3", 34-inch arms and a 42-inch vertical. The guy's explosive with quick feet. Love that pickup for them. Better in zone than man, so fits right in there with what the Colts like to do. Getting Josh Downs in the third round, a guy who was mocked at the back end of the first round a lot of times going into the draft, even in the middle part of the second, to get a guy like that, even though he's undersized, maybe plays in the slot, he is a good separator. And actually, even is pretty good over the middle of the field. He hauled in 13 of 18 contested targets last season, despite his small stature. And then they come around in the fourth round and get a guy like Blake Freeland, who many people liked in the second to the third round. You're talking about a tackle who's 6'8", tested off the charts with 95th percentile or better scores in vertical jump, broad jump, short shuttle, and three cones. So real athlete, good on the move, great in his zone blocking system. And then getting, of course, Adebawore in the fourth round, just an absolute steal getting him that late. Look, whatever the concerns were, whether they're medical, size related, outlier related,
Tackling,
rawness, whatever you want to say, getting that level of a athlete, of a talent in the fourth round is still a heck of a steal. And then, of course, I love Darius Rush, guy with size, length, ball skills, playmaking ability. That's a guy to get in the fifth round that I really feel like could be a starter in this league as a number 2 corner going forward and within a year or two. Then you get a guy like Will Mallory, Evan Hall toward the end, and then Jalen Jones from Texas A&M, who's a little on the shorter side, but still is a fierce competitor. So that's probably my favorite draft class, hands down. A lot of guys are really liking that class.
yeah. So I have a couple of winners. I thought the Eagles hit the draft out
Another
of the
one of
park.
mine.
Yeah,
I really
same.
do. And I hate to say this. I can't even believe I'm about to say this, but I think the Pittsburgh Steelers had a pretty damn good draft.
They
I
were
gotta be
another
honest
one
with
of
you.
mine.
Really good draft. I
Unfortunately.
think it was a good draft. I'll tell you who I don't think had a good draft, though, the Lions. But the draft, I thought they kind of reached in the beginning when they went out and they grabbed the Jahmyr Gibbs. That was pretty shocking to me to start it off. And I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. I know everybody on television, and everybody probably watching at home when that pick came in with the 12 overall pick, the Detroit Lions select Jahmyr Gibbs, running back from the University of Alabama. Listen, we all like Jahmyr Gibbs here on this panel. We all
Love Jahmyr Gibbs.
We all do. But do you love him at 12? Do you love him at 12? Do you love the Falcons drafting Bijan Robinson at what, 8?
8.
Let's talk about that for a little bit. We thought in our minds that the league had smartened up. We thought in our minds the league had got out of this weird thing of drafting running backs early, right? And they said, because running backs are one of the most replaceable positions in the National Football League. The Falcons said, I got something for you. We're going to show you up. And then the Lions go out there and they added Jahmyr Gibbs. And if I remember correctly, no, I'm sorry, the Falcons had the third rushing offense in the NFL this year. So it makes you wonder, with all the talent that was on the board and all the question marks that they have on the defensive side of the football, why would you then go out there and draft the Bijan Robinson? Because I love Terry Fontenot, who is the Falcons general manager. But let me explain something to you guys. If this does not work, this man is out of there probably within 2 years. Because to me, that was a very, very bold strategy. You guys know that GIF. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it pays off. Like that, for me, that's what it's like for Terry Fontenot. I'm really, really curious to see what the thought process was, and I'm still trying to figure out what the thought process was by adding a guy like Bijan Robinson. I understand he's a talent. Even my little brother, who happened to be here, at the First Round Logistics draft party, pretty much talked about Bijan as a potential future Hall of Famer. And I was like, whoa. like the guy hasn't even taken a snap yet in the National Football League, and we're already calling him a future Hall of Famer. I'm really, really curious to hear you guys' thoughts as we dissect teams, draft philosophies and draft picks. I'm really, really curious to hear your thoughts. Jules, I know you really haven't talked too much. Do you have any thoughts on the Bijan Robinson pick to the Falcons? Or better yet, I don't even want to pigeonhole you like that. Is there a draft pick that you loved? Is there a draft pick that you hated?
Something I found interesting was the 49ers draft picks, especially drafting Jake Moody. I thought that was weird, especially in the first few rounds to draft a kicker when you can easily get them in free agency. I'm not saying Jake Moody is bad. He's a Michigan man, no disrespect. But I question that because they didn't get any value from doing that at all.
Yeah.
In fact, their first couple of picks added no value to them. And I don't really understand the thought process there.
I like the safety they drafted out of Penn State. I thought that was a good pick.
Jair Brown's is an interesting guy. I like that pick, but actually the 49ers were one of my losers. And the reason is, like Jules said, taking a kicker in the 3rd round. I mean, there were so many talented players on the board that could give you immediate contributions, give you immediate impact. And to opt for the kicker when you probably could have waited 2 or 3 rounds and still gotten the exact same guy, or just have the understanding that, hey, we really want this guy, but if someone is willing to take him that high, then you let them. And the difference between that kicker and another one are likely not going to be that significant. Just spending that high of a draft pick on a kicker is not a great idea. And then when you look at Cameron Latu, everybody knows that Malik and myself are both Alabama guys, right? We like these Alabama guys, but at the same time, we try to be realistic and objective when we give our analysis. And he had a 60.6 PFF receiving grade and a 50.0 run block grade, and was as low as 1.03 yards per route run. For comparison's sake, Michael Mayer was up over 2.2 yards per route run. So it's half as efficient as that. He has the size, but the production wasn't ever there, especially in an Alabama offense where they desperately needed any type of consistent receiving help. He failed to show up in that regard. He really could have improved his stock. I just thought in the 3rd round, when you had other options out there available, I don't like that pick as much. And then, I don't want to bash on some of the later round guys, but D Winters out of TCU, again, this is a 6th round pick, but even though he played almost 700 snaps in each of the past 3 seasons, in all of those, he never produced a PFF grade that was higher than 55. And he had a missed tackle rate of 16%. So you're talking about missing almost 1 in every 5 tackles there, and you're getting that from a linebacker. So I didn't like a lot of their picks, didn't like the value that they got. I like the Jair Brown pick, but outside of that, I really couldn't find anything to get excited about from that draft.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were able to get everybody in this, the state of Ohio or the city of Cincinnati's favorite tight end, the guy who won the underwear Olympics. They were able to go out and grab Darnell Washington. Now, you and me, we both know the reason why he fell is because of those knee injury concerns and
Mhm.
things of that. So I'm curious to see how that pans out for him. But honestly speaking, it did seem like the Pittsburgh Steelers had a great draft. I got honest, and I was waiting for that spot in the draft because you know what happens every single year for those of you who've been following the NFL draft for years, where the Baltimore Ravens blow everybody away.
Mhm.
And I don't think it really happened this year.
The
Like
Steelers did it, man.
the
And that was
Steelers did.
Why
yeah.
do the
they-
Steelers always manage to do good things?
Corey
just
Trice
I
in
just
the
don't get it.
7th.
You get Corey
Corey
Trice.
Trice
you
is
get
probably
Joey
a
Porter
top
Jr.
100 player in the 7th. You're talking about a corner who's got size, athleticism, everything you want. I didn't understand it.
I will tell you, there is a pick that the Baltimore Ravens made because every single draft, the Baltimore Ravens go out there and they have a pick that makes everybody go like, "Damn it!" And for me, it was Andrew Voorhees in the 6th round,
6th or 7th.
Man, that was 6th round. I think it was 6th round, and they traded up. They actually traded up to grab him too. Andrew Voorhees, a guy that was considered easily a day 2 pick.
Mhm.
Round 2 probably would have went early round 2 had he been healthy.
There were some really interesting fallers this draft, and not even always health related. Like we talked about Adebore earlier. What about Keely Ringo, a guy that some said was a fringe first round prospect, drop into the 4th?
You see,
I never saw him that way. I was scared to death that Ringo was going to be a pick in the 2nd round. I did not want to take that chance.
I don't like Keely Ringo. I think
The stiffness terrifies me.
man.
Getting beat deep so consistently
Yeah.
terrifies me.
Man.
That's not what I want out of my corner. Stiffness and getting beat deep all the time.
And I got to talk about those New England Patriots. Aiden,
They
if
had
you're
an
watching,
interesting
and I'm
one.
pretty sure you're watching, they had an interesting draft. They became, I think, the first team since like the early 1900s. I'm kidding. I'm making some year up. But the draft a punter and a kicker. Now, Daniel, that's your former team. What the hell was with the New England Patriots going out there? Listen, I understand Bill Belichick, former special teams guy, makes sense. There's 3 phases. There's offense, defense, and special teams. But to spend premium picks, I still consider them premium picks because the Patriots had a boatload of picks to choose from. And considering all the talent that was on the board, they go out there and they draft a kicker and a punter. Keyshawn Boutte was a great pick. Character concerns, sure. But great pick by the New England Patriots. To me, that was their best pick. I know people are high on Christian Gonzalez. I think the guy's a little bit overrated. That's just my opinion.
At 17, though.
But that's a great pick for them. That's a great pick. And
Dude,
if anybody,
Keon White was a great pick too, man.
yeah.
In the 2nd round at 46, I mean, I think Daniel Jeremiah had him almost as a fringe first rounder there for a couple weeks. I mean, I like that. I like Marty Mapu. I don't know if I like him in the 3rd round. Maybe I. At that point, I'm splitting hairs between 20 or 30 picks of value based on what I believe or what I've perceived, and
we don't
build
talk
up as the
we
consensus.
don't talk about it enough. I think Bill's a little bit of an overrated drafter. Like
Yes,
when it
no,
comes to
it's always been his ability to get the
Yeah.
most out of his players. It's been playing them to their strengths. It's not been drafting really good players and then having them around. A lot of the guys they get have been free agents, have been these back end guys who hit and they end up coaching them really well. So they've
Right.
reached their potential. It's not necessarily they were scouting really well.
Yeah, I agree. I guess we should also talk about the Seattle Seahawks draft, huh? Seattle Seahawks had a pretty good draft.
Oh yeah,
They drafted Charbonnet. That I guess they're trying to recreate that beast mode. I guess.
I guess so.
I don't
Devon
know.
Witherspoon too.
Yeah, Devon-
Derek Hall. Derek Hall.
Oh yeah, man. There were a lot of teams throwing a lot of smoke screens up too, man. The top. Let's just talk about the top of the draft, like the top 5 picks.
Mhm.
Going into it, let me just, I could say it now. I mean, I had it on Patreon and all this stuff like that, and I felt kind of bad because teams threw a lot of smoke screens. Everybody that came out with a mock draft was wrong. Let me say it again. Everybody that came out with a mock draft this year and predicted their top 5 picks were wrong. Because going into the draft, we were told, okay, number 1, obviously Bryce Young. I've been saying that for weeks back when he was minus 400 coming out of the combine, and everybody said, no, CJ Stroud. No, it was Bryce Young. Number 2 was supposed to be Tyree Wilson. Number 3 came down the pipeline, was supposed to be Paris Johnson, right, to the Cardinals. Number 4, CJ Stroud to the Colts. Number 5, Jalen Carter to the Seattle Seahawks. Number 6, Devon Witherspoon to the Lions. That was the consensus draft. That was supposed to be what the picks were going to be going into the draft. Now, all of that got turned upside down on his head. Bryce Young goes first, as expected, but the Texans shocked everybody, and they draft Will Anderson. Now, Will Anderson was everybody's edge one, but for weeks, the smoke screens were up. Tyree Wilson, Tyree Wilson, Tyree Wilson. Well, it wasn't Tyree Wilson. It was Will Anderson. Then 3 was correct. Paris Johnson to the Cardinals, but these guys traded back. With who? The Texans. They traded back with the Texans. The Texans were the most aggressive team, I would say, and they were right borderline there with the Giants. What the Giants did last year, but the Texans, they traded up to get right back in, into the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
And correction, that's a good point that you made, Nick. Sorry about that. They drafted C.J. Stroud second. They traded up into the 3rd to draft Will Anderson, so they had back-to-back picks in the top 5.
That's some Madden franchise.
That's
stuff.
some Madden franchise stuff. And to me, I still don't think that the Texans. I don't think that the Cardinals got enough back, in my opinion, for to give up that. But I understand if there's a guy that you want, you go out there and you grab him. So anyway, they move up. They draft C.J. Stroud, a 2nd overall. They move up. They draft Will Anderson, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's like, "What in the hell is going on?" That's not some. I agree with you, Platypus. That is literally some PFF draft day stuff, Evan. That's some what's his name?
I didn't make it.
You guys ever seen the draft day movie? What's his name? Sonny Weaver Jr. Like, that was some draft days. That does not happen in all my years of covering the NFL, let alone watch it. That does not happen. A team does not trade up into the top 5 and get back-to-back 2nd and 3rd overall picks. But I got to take my hats off to DeMeco Ryan, to Nick Casario. That was a home run first round for you guys. That was so great.
Mm-hmm.
That was aggressive. That's what we want to see more of. That is the epitome. If there's a guy that you want, you go out there and you get him. NBA teams, take notice. If you want to draft Victor Wembanyama, I don't want to pronounce his name, Victor Wemby, you go out there and you draft them. You go out there and you be aggressive. Teams going forward in the future, if there's a guy that you want for the NFL draft, you go out there and you get him.
I do not advise this.
What do you
No.
mean?
I think the
Because,
Cavs should take
Malik,
notes.
The squeaky wheel gets the
Every
grease.
single year, we have gone back, we have compiled all of these years together and said, looking at these players after their careers are over, when we know what they are, is anybody much better at drafting than any other GM?
Yes.
No. The
Yes.
answer is no. The data says no.
I don't listen.
The New Orleans Saints had one of the best draft classes in the last 10 years,
Sure.
correct? What have they done since then?
Nothing.
The Seattle Seahawks had one of the greatest draft classes since 2012. What did they do after that? Nothing. They drafted LJ Collier in the 1st round.
No, that was
because
horrible.
This is what I'm
No.
saying.
But hear me out.
Picks are more valuable. That is the thing. And
Sure.
if you are constantly saying give up multiple either 1st or 2nd or 3rd rounders because to move up, that is bad process. It's
Evan,
bad process.
And it might
more
be.
swings
And
at
it
the
might,
bat.
Listen, and it might be, but what I'm saying is if you have 2 guys that you believe in that are franchise changers, and a Will Anderson and a C.J. Stroud, 100% the Texans did the correct thing. If they're wrong, if they swung for the fences, and they swung and they missed, right? Then they missed. But they went out there and they got a guy. They got 2 guys that they believed in. The Giants last year believed in Kayvon Thibodeau. They believed in Evan Neal. Are they wrong for going out there and grabbing the players they want? Well, guess what? Time will see. But so far, what we've seen, it doesn't look like they're wrong.
The matter is, it's like if we have a free throw competition and we have to make 5 free throws, but you get 10 chances and I get 15 chances. That's the difference, right? Is I get more swings at the bat. I get more chances. I'm more likely to get the hit on what we're trying to accomplish because I have more opportunities. As confident as you feel that you might be able to shoot those free throws, things happen, man. Like players bust, teams bust.
I understand, but you only know that if you take a chance, though, right? I mean, you listen. At the end of the day, I don't think the Texans were wrong by doing what they did. Do you think they're wrong for that?
I don't know that they're wrong. I'm just saying that it is bad process to say constantly, always trade up if you like a guy and you think he's going to be gone, because
I don't
one,
think so.
you're battling yourself, because one, the guy might be there. So if you're constantly giving into that pressure of, I'm going to give up future draft assets, I'm going to give up second and third rounders, where we talk about so much of the beef of your team is built in the second, third, and
What
fourth
is
round.
the likelihood? Listen. Will Anderson was
How
not
many
going to.
second
Will
rounders
Anderson
did
was
the
not going to be
Bengals
there
hit
at
on?
12. Will Anderson was not going to be there at 12.
I understand that. I'm saying, what
Or
is the-
whatever. What pick did they trade?
But that's the
Wasn't-
thing
what
is,
did
you're
they-
not just trading.
gonna be
You're
there.
trading between the next best edge rusher and a second round guy to be the equivalence of Will Anderson. And the data says that as much as you think, if you look at wins above replacement, if you look at Pro Bowls, whatever the hell you want to look at, it is so hard for one player to offset the value of two players. If you're trying to tell me that this one edge rusher is going to be more valuable than a starting tackle you could have gotten at 8
Evan, let's
and
talk
a
about
starting
Evan.
safety in
Let's
2.
talk about this. Let's talk about this. Let's really have an interesting dialogue for the people right here.
Let's do it.
Edge rusher is one of the most important. It's a premium position in the National
Yes.
Football League. It's the reason why when those guys hit the open market, they can get paid tens and millions of dollars. It's the reason why teams will literally throw boatloads of money. It's the reason why Jadeveon Clowney was able to finesse teams for several years to pay him $10 million annually, because people will pay for premium positions. So where the Texans saw a need, the Texans said, you know what? Will Anderson is not only the best edge rusher in this draft, but he is a game changer. He's a game changing for our defense, and they certainly need it, because who else is going to rush the pass for them? So yes, if you want them to settle in the teens for an edge rusher there, when they can go out there and trade up and
12.
get the best and get the sure. If you want them to trade up and get the best edge rusher in this class, is going to transform their defense, then guess what?
Brother,
I'm all for
not
them being
arguing
aggressive.
with you about the value of an edge position. I'm saying that the difference between
Okay. Yeah.
Here's the difference. The next best edge rusher. Who is your next best edge rusher in the draft behind Will Anderson?
Tyree Wilson. Probably,
Okay.
yeah.
So the difference is Tyree Wilson and a starting tackle.
Sure.
How is Will Anderson going to overcome the value that you could have as a team that you're trying to build, a team devoid of talent that is now trying to build around CJ Stroud? You're telling me that Will Anderson would have been more valuable for them than Tyree Wilson and starting tackle that you prefer at 33, or starting corner that you prefer at 33? And my answer is no. And I love Will Anderson. But the problem is, again, when you're trying to talk about anybody, it's not quarterback. If you're trying to tell me that you're going to have an edge rusher that is going to be better than a starting corner and a starting tackle or a starting whatever of a premium position, then it's just one player overcoming the value of two players is so difficult to do. That guy has to be a TJ Watt, Bosa level edge defender, and the other guys have to be able to just be okay. And even then, when you look at wins above replacement, when you look at just production and expected points, all of these things together, it is so hard for one player to overcome the value of two. And that's sure, if you feel like you got a guy and the value is right, trade up, but do this sparingly. Do not adopt this strategy for all time, for constantly.
No.
That's not the way to do it. We've seen teams like the Eagles. How have they stayed so good? How have they gotten so many of these draft picks? Because they trade back. And they get extra picks. And then that gives them flexibility to move up sometimes, yes, but generally they're taking lots of good players.
Are you done, brother?
I'm done. Go ahead.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I have
love it.
nothing to add.
And I love you. And I love you. You have one thing to add, Jules?
No, I just sit here and I listen. I'm like, well, like, you're really never going to know until 5 years down the road how much of an impact someone's going to have. So I feel like I come in the middle and agree with both points from both sides. And I hope everyone has fun.
Jules is the best.
I just
and
sit here and
I
like,
appreciate her being
no
her
idea.
dean of the Sit-Down show and trying to, keep
I'm
the peace
I'm
and
a
the order.
negotiator.
I hear you.
I
I
guess.
hear you. But Evan, are you done?
Oh, yeah, I'm
Oh
good.
my God.
I said what I need to say. Say what you
So-
need to say.
So you talk about they could have they didn't have to necessarily trade up, right? They could have waited, right? Because they're, the next best edge rusher.
You gave up 33 and next year's first.
Tyree Wilson was not there.
Not Will Anderson, your guy,
Who?
Will McDonald.
Brother, You're comparing Will McDonald and Will Anderson?
No, I'm not. I'm saying again, if Will
Game
Will Anderson is Pro Bowl edge rusher,
Listen, Will McDonald is my guy, and I love him. But that guy, the Jets was a complete reach by the Jets.
Buddy,
a complete reach.
if Will McDonald never makes an All-Pro team, is just an 8-sack-a-year guy, and Will Anderson is a 15-sack-a-year guy, but then they go and they get whatever corner was available at 33. If they get Joey Porter and he hits, that is the point. Is because even if you just have a above average corner and above average edge rusher, it equates to more value for your team.
Maybe you don't want an above average. Maybe you want a game changer. Maybe you want a game wrecker. And I view Will Anderson a lot like probably how the Texans view him. And I'm sure you view him the same way. I'm not saying that you don't. And listen, I think we're agreeing more than
first rounder. That's the other thing. We're not just talking about pick 12, what you could have got there, and what you could have gotten at 33. We're talking about 3 starters, and who knows what your pick is going to be next year in the first round. If things don't go well, you could be in the top 10 again. You're talking about you could have gotten another edge rusher. You could have gotten a franchise tackle in the top 10 next season. That's 3 players in the top 30 that you're giving up to move up and get one guy. That's the thing. You're devoid of talent. It's not like you're a Will Anderson away. We're talking about building the team. 3 top 30 picks to get one guy. That dude has to be a Hall of Fame edge rusher to beat out the value of them. And out of those 3 guys, 2 of them probably have to bust, even if they're all just average NFL players. That's so much to give up. So again,
I think the viewers, I think we're agreeing a little bit more than we're just because number one, I'm not telling people every single draft jump up and grab a guy. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is if there is a player that you think that can transform your team, like defensively or offensively,
I think giving up 3 top 100 picks, top 50 picks like that, top 35 picks for a non-quarterback is a bad idea. If they take Will Anderson at 2, and then, CJ Stroud is sitting on the board for him at 4 or something, or they feel like maybe the Colts are going to take him and then they trade up with that I feel a little bit better about your process, at least, right? Then I feel like at least you're trading up for an extremely valuable position, and your process is in the right spot. Your mindset is in the right spot. I have a lot of trouble. Like if we saw somebody say, oh, they traded up to number 3, they're going to pick, this quarterback X, Y, and Z. And then they just picked like a running back or an edge rusher. Everybody be like, wait, what? Why did you give up all those picks then to move all the way up there? It's the same thing. I love the player. I do, man. Again, 3 picks in the top 35 is a lot to give up, and 2 in the top 12.
I think people are, and I respect your opinion.
Right.
We agree more than we disagree, and things that we disagree on, we kind of stand our ground on. And I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I like the aggression personally. Evan is much more analytical. I've never shied away from that. Sometimes analytics went out. Sometimes, the guys went out. The people, if you just want to go out there, just grab a guy, sometimes we're going to win out. Time will tell if I'm right or if Evan's right. I guess I'll hang my hat on it if the Texans are in the playoffs in the next 2 years.
I'll be interested to see what those picks end up turning out to be.
Hey, listen, I think you're talking about Evan 100% might be spot on here, but I'm all about aggression. And guess what? Everybody, you could pick whatever side you want on this. You could be like Jules and just say, I hope everybody has fun as well. Well, there's no division with us. We agree to disagree on that one. I personally think that I think they made the right decision by going up there getting Will Anderson. It's something that I actually personally love seeing from them as well. But what Evan's thinking, his thought process does make sense. I see a little bit differently.
Let me just chime in really quickly. I think to bridge the gap between the two, Malik is saying like the Will Anderson, the Knicks or the Texans GM feels that they're ready to compete within the next 2 years. He feels that Will Anderson is on the level of the TJ Watts. He feels that CJ Stroud is going to take them over the top. That's what I think the Texan GM, and to your point, you're saying it's not a smart move because if it doesn't work out, then you screw up.
Well, you said 2 years away, right? If you're 2 years away, what good does giving up 3 of your potential cheap, talented draft picks do for you? If you're the Chiefs and you say, we're going to give up our second rounder and our future first rounder to go get this guy because we think we're an edge rusher away, that I get that. I get that aggression. I don't give up if we're talking, because we're talking about team building philosophy here.
If I'm being
and
honest,
you need to build your team.
if I'm being honest with you, I think it's all situationally based. I really do. And I think
It's case by case.
I think that for the Texans standpoint, I see people saying, "Oh, I agree with Evan. I agree with Evan. Evan's spot on." And he
Damn
actually,
right.
he actually might be. And Chris Hall, I appreciate you, my loyal supporter, always in here tapping my back. Appreciate you, brother. Anyway, I think people will have to realize what division the Texans are also in. That division is very winnable for the Texans.
They got a lot better.
It did.
Colts got better with
Colts
Anthony
did get
Richardson
better.
and all the load I
But
talked
the
about.
division-
T-Law's not going
But the
away.
division, guess what? The division is still up for it. You know what I mean? It's still up for grabs. I think the Texans, I think it's very realistic because I don't think that the Jaguars have shown us the consistency yet. Now we can say T-Law is going to take that next step, and I do believe he is going to take that next step.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's out of the question that the Texans could win the division this year. Right now,
I don't
this
think
year.
so. But what does that even look like? Like, what are you? Like, how many games do you win at that point? Are you in the wild card? Are we in the business of just making? How many times did the Bengals make the first round of the playoffs and lose? Is that satisfying? Is that a place you want to be
they
stuck?
underachieved. I mean,
that's fair. I'm
underachieved.
just saying, like,
I'm saying the Texans are able year one with DeMeco Ryans as coach is able to go to the playoffs. That's a win. You chalk it up as a win, and it's something that you can build on for the future. Because guess what? Winning cures everything, right? If they're able to have foster a winning season, it'll be much easier to attract free agents.
well, winning
to
season
Houston.
and making the playoffs are not quite the same
let's
thing
say
anymore.
well, that's true. Let's say they make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
It's easier for them. It's much easier for them to attract free agents to Houston because they're like, oh, damn, CJ Stroud,
They're
Will
putting
Anderson,
it together. They're
they're putting
good.
together. I want to
Yep.
be there. And then you're going to get those veterans that can 100% come in there and help reshape that organization. So we may be looking at the entire big thing and say, hey, they've they've got it. I don't know what you consider a win for them necessarily because they went up and they got Will Anderson and CJ Stroud. But for me, I look at it as a win. If they're able to win their division or even come close to winning the division, some free agent is going to look at that and say, I can get behind that. I want to be a part of the rebuild in Houston, a lot like the Von Bell did in Cincinnati.
That's a nice tiebreaker, but we know money talks, baby.
Oh yeah,
money
for
talks.
sure. Money talks, but if you also know that your future is bright with a CJ Stroud at quarterback and you have a dominant defensive player, defensive edge rusher, like I'm expecting the Texans are expecting, Will Anderson to become, it's much easier to attract free agents. And guess what? That winning that we're talking about becomes sustainable. You're able to grab things. So I'm looking at it from the long game. And what you're saying makes a lot of sense. We're agreeing more than we're disagreeing, brother. We really are. I think that if you're those of you who saw the War Room episodes that we have for State of the Jungle, you'll see that, our philosophies are different, but we kind of come together in the end. And I think the ultimate goal for the Texans, no matter how they get there, I think it's very realistic the Texans can find themselves in the playoffs in the next 2 years. I really do. I don't think the jury's out on them just yet.
No, I don't think so.
Let's talk about our Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals, they had a good draft. The Bengals had a good draft. People were up in arms. Michael Mayers didn't get picked. But Myles Murphy did. Myles Murphy went 28th overall to the Cincinnati Bengals. Evan, I'm really curious. I know we kind of sat back. We talked about it at the First Yard Logistics annual Bengals draft party.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear what your thoughts are. But before I hear your thoughts, Jules, what did you think of the Bengals draft? Do you have any thoughts on the Bengals draft at all?
Well, I like DJ Turner. I like that pick. He has a lot of speed.
Mhm.
He can play inside and out.
Yeah.
And I believe he's going to be able to play right away too.
Yeah.
So I really like that pick. They got two Michigan men. Their punter, Brad Robbins, who when I saw him on TV this season playing for Michigan, I thought it was a 40-year-old man, but I was very confused. It's like, oh, that's their punter. But he's good. He's a lot of hang time. I like it.
Yep.
I like that. I like those picks. I like all of them, honestly.
My favorite pick of the draft is Roll Tide, baby. Favorite pick,
Ah.
man, Jordan Battle, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it for the Bengals, man.
Mhm.
That dude could play free safety. He could play strong safety. He's rangy. He's intelligent. Let me tell you something. Me and Evan both are Alabama Crimson Tide fans.
Mhm.
Evan went to the University of Alabama. I did
Oh,
not.
that's
but I
awesome.
did watch Alabama. My college did not have a football team.
My
But I'll tell you
college did.
this. Oh, here
Go
we
Bowling Green. Big Bowling Green fan.
I'll say this, man. Whenever Jordan Battle was not on the field, it was very noticeable. It was very noticeable.
Mhm.
Evan, am I lying?
Oh no, he was the brain of that
Oh
defense.
man. And this pick, you
Mhm.
mean to tell me we get Daxton Hill, Jordan Battle as a safety duo? I didn't forget about Nick Scott. I did not forget about Nick. I didn't. I promise you I didn't.
I think we see a lot of 3 safety this year.
Yeah, man. Of course you do. Tyson Anderson, don't forget about him either.
Mhm.
But if we talk about it, man, the Bengals got very versatile on defense. Very versatile on defense. Something else I want to talk about. I love Mike Hilton. I do. But there are serious concerns from a pass coverage standpoint,
Mhm.
right? And I hate to say this, but it's almost like the Chiefs target him and pick on him whenever we play them. Because right now, you know how you draft to win your division? The
Mhm.
Bengals have won the division 2 years in a row. And before the draft, I think they were in well positioned to win the division again this year. But now they restocked, reloaded, got stronger. Now, very much so, the Bengals are drafting to compete and win the conference,
Mhm.
if you ask me. And I think that getting faster on defense directly correlates to going up against the Kansas City Chiefs because their receivers are what? Speedy guys. They're guys that can stretch the field. That's Patrick Mahomes' game. Now you have guys on the back end that can cover those guys. But the point that I'm making is if the Bengals had a DJ Turner, who I think could play inside outside, I really do, the Bengals might be in the Super Bowl last year. I mean, when I say we got abused, me, Daniel, and Evan were at the Chiefs Bengals AFC Championship.
Oh no, I was watching in a bar and ended up crying.
We got
It was a sad time.
abused in the slot. Abused in the slot. The Bengals just reloaded. I love what you said, Chuck. I love it, man. The Bengals reloaded on defense. The Bengals reloaded as a team. One of my favorite things about this team is that I feel like they genuinely draft the best player available. The questions that we once had about the safety position kind of got answered. Now, we don't know, obviously, how it's going to play out, but I know what I saw in Jordan Battle. That is a guy that I think can come in right away and be a starter on this defense. And I think he's going to win the job. I'll say it right now. I think he's going to win the job. The one thing I like about him, too, is the guy just always finds the ball. He's always around the ball.
Smart, man. It's his anticipation. It's his play recognition. I mean, he didn't test like a high-level athlete. He tested like an average athlete. And I talked about it a little bit on the draft show.
Yeah.
There's 2 ways to be fast, right? You're either really fast and have good athleticism and you have good closing speed. You're quick in and out of your breaks. You're sudden. You're twitched up.
Yeah.
The other way to be fast is to see things before they happen, to anticipate where people are moving, where people are going, to recognize concepts faster so you know where you need to be to stop what the defense is trying to achieve. And I feel like he does that very well.
Yeah, I agree. I'll do you one better too, man. Not only did they impress me with going out there and attacking the defense, now I feel like the defense was missing some juice for quite some time. That was the first defensive lineman the Bengals drafted in the first round since 2001 with Justin Smith. They got some juice, man.
Yeah.
They got better. You mean to tell me Joseph Asai's still out there? Trey Hendrickson's out there. They were one of the worst pass rushing units when Trey Hendrickson came off the field.
Mm-hmm.
And now you get a guy like Myles Murphy, who one thing I love about rangy edge rushers, right? I hate drafting short guys because they can typically rush the passer and they have high motors, but it sometimes they have a hard time getting the job done. Like Carl Lawson would have been the perfect edge rusher if he was able to actually get to the quarterback on a consistent basis, right? For me, that was my one gripe that I had with the guy. But you look at a guy like Myles Murphy. Myles Murphy's long rangey. He can impact the game in so many different ways. Like very, very similar size to a guy like Carlos Dunlap, but I think his motor is higher. And I don't think he takes plays off. He works extremely hard. And to me, I just think that grabbing a guy like Myles Murphy, now Trey Hendrickson is going to be able to get a breather. He's going to be able to not deal with so many double teams. Or if he does deal with double teams, you'll have a guy that's able to help get pressure. Sam Hubbard is a phenomenal player, great run defender. And I think he has made strides in his pass rushing attack. Then Joseph Asai as well. I just think I think the Bengals just addressed so many concerns that they had along his defensive line. They got younger. They got younger on the defense. They really did. I'll tell you another pick that I love that the Bengals did. Chase Brown. You talk about a number 2 back. Listen, I love Travion Williams, love Chris Evans, do. Maybe the coaching staff doesn't love Chris Evans as much as I do, but Chase Brown makes sense for a lot of reasons. Chase Brown is a guy that has real home run threat ability. And I just remember when the Bengals drafted him, I looked over at Evan, and Evan was smiling from ear to ear. And Evan, talk to us a little bit more about that Chase Brown pick. What does he do for this Bengals offense? I'm sure people want to hear from you. So
Right. And the people who tune in to our War Room episodes know that we kind of had a little debate a couple weeks ago about Keaton Mitchell versus Chase Brown, and I said, look, this is a guy you're going to get later in the draft who has the 3-down back potential, right? Has the size you're looking for, has home run speed. He's got 4.43 speed, 85th percentile, 40-inch vertical, 94th percentile, 127-inch broad, 92nd percentile. This is a guy who's an athlete. This is a guy who has explosion, has that speed, and has that home run threat ability, and can definitely offer you a little bit in terms of pass blocking and pass catching. The unfortunate part is he, despite being 5'9", almost 210 pounds, he plays a little bit smaller than his size. Yards after contact ranked 2.8 out of 200 running backs. That was 154th. And his elusiveness, ability to break tackles, elude defenders, run them over. An elusive rating is 71, which was 118th out of 200. So he didn't do a great job of creating yards himself, but when there was a hole to hit, when there was a lane to run through, he can hit it, and he can hit it fast. So if you believe in Frank Pollock, if you believe in this run game, then you believe that you can get it going up there and get those gaps, get those lanes, and really have someone who can hit them and be explosive and run hard through them, not just to get 4 or 5 yards with an extra 2, but to really give them a threat to get out into the second level and try and threaten some of these DBs on the run.
I'll tell you what, man. And Jules, chime in at any point in time. Charlie Jones, great pick. Charlie Jones, great pick. He's a little older, right? But he's a guy that he's just a dog, man.
I do need to bring up Chase Brown had some fumbling issues.
Yes,
though.
He does. Chase Brown does have
But
fumbling issues.
Bengals running back coach.
I saw some people saying, about we want him to secure the starting job. I don't know if he'll secure the starting job.
Maybe not right away.
He's a compliment to Mixon, and I expect Mixon to have a strong season. I really do. I got a chance to talk with him, and he seemed very motivated going in for this next year. And I'm
sure he is, man. We wish the best for him, and best for Chase Brown as well. I think they'll be able to try, and I think some NFL coaching will help him for sure.
Yeah. But talking about it, Charlie Jones, man, that was a good pick by the Bengals.
Very productive.
You know what's funny? I don't know how to pronounce the kid's last name. He's from my neck of the woods, around Princeton, New Jersey.
Yoshua or Yos?
I'm just gonna say.
Yeah, I was not sure.
I'm just gonna say Andre. I'm just gonna call him as Andre or Dre, something like that, because I don't want to butcher it. That dude reminds me a little bit of Marvin Jones. Reminds me a little Marvin Jones. He does. Can stretch the field. Can extend it. Strong hands.
Good catch radius.
Oh yeah. I looked right at Daniel. Well, we were actually together, and I said I said that's Marvin Jones. That's Marvin Jones. Now, I think he has a little more speed than Marvin, but man, I think the Bengals literally said, "F it, screw the tight end position. We're gonna go out there and we're gonna line up our receivers, and because guess what? Most teams have 2 great corners max, 2 good corners max. They don't really have 3, and they certainly don't have 4. What if the Bengals really just say, you know what? Screw the tight end position. I also wondered, did the Bengals make a handshake deal with Irv Smith? A little bit. I do kind of wonder that. Hey, you come to Cincinnati, we won't draft the tight end early.
I think also the board just for tight end did not fall favorably for the Bengals, where Sam Laporta, we talked about, Dave said that they were in on him. They really liked him a lot. I did too. I thought he was a great fit for them. But he went off the board early in the second. You saw the Packers grab 2 tight ends in the first 4 rounds.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
That was weird. Yeah. So, I mean, there were a couple times where the value just wasn't there. And I know people want to say, well, Darnell Washington. Well, Darnell Washington was not necessarily a good fit for what this offense wants to do. If they want to spread it out, if they want to be able to attack vertically, if they want some sort of underneath threat, I don't know that Darnell Washington was that, plus the knee injury. We don't know how severe that is or what that medical check is. We know he was off some teams' board altogether because of that knee and how degenerative it was. So I mean, it's hard to knock anybody for that. We know the prospect was nice. We know the combine was good, but
Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd,
Mhm.
Charlie Jones, Andre Dre. That's what I call him.
No,
This is
get him,
almost
in,
like
get him in
this
a room
is-
with Troy Walters and let him
this is
develop
like
that
the-
guy.
This is like the LSU, shotgun.
Mhm.
Yeah, the pick of the litter. Got all your receivers out there. Dink and dunk. Got a running back in the backfield. Maybe you put Chase Brown back there. This offense is going to be insane this year, man. And the cool thing about it is, Jamar Chase missed some time last year.
Mhm.
And the biggest thing they were missing was that home run threat ability down the field. They have that now. They
They got two guys with that speed now.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they go out there and they as an undrafted. Now listen, you don't really expect too much from undrafted free agents. But they picked up the kid from Auburn, Bo Jackson's nephew or something like that. He's a speed. You got some juice with him as well. But not only that, you got to wonder, what does this mean for guys like Stanley Morgan? What does this mean for guys like Trent Taylor and Trent Irwin? Trent Irwin came on strong. If Trent Irwin is your worst receiver on the team, that's not bad. That's a guy that had some really good games for the Bengals last year. My biggest issue is the Bengals had too many receivers with the same prototype on the back end of the roster. Short guys, slot guys.
I think we send Trent Taylor disappear because I think Darren Simmons really likes Stanley Morgan, loves what he can offer on special teams. We know how important special teams are after last season. And I think you're talking about, you're adding DJ Turner to that group, probably Miles Murphy to that group. You're talking about adding all of these different pieces. I really think they're going to want that kind of veteran presence. We know how good and reliable Stanley Morgan is. And then I think they like Trent Irwin. I think Trent Irwin came on strong. And I think we kind of know what Trent Taylor is at this point in his career. And he's not the guy who's really like kind of earned his spot the way that Irwin did, I think. So I think he's kind of the odd man out looking at right now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Stanley Morgan's blocking abilities just can't be underrated,
Right.
But another thing we're not talking about here, and I know we're staying on this NFL draft talk, and it's taking up most of the show. Jonah Williams, right tackle.
He will be.
It seems like the Bengals knew this was the
Well, hey, Jackson Carman is doing yoga now. So, hey, how about that?
Sure, same here. So insert me into the Bengals right tackle
I'm
lineup.
not a fan of yoga.
of
I'm just not.
Pilates?
I probably wouldn't be a fan of that.
I hear you.
Exercise is a lot for me. I have to be yelled at like in high school. Like I had coaches, they would tell me what to do. Now I'm like, oh crap. I don't know what to do. I'll just go on a walk.
But I'll say this. So it seems like Jonah knows he's going to be he's going to be competing for the right tackle position. That's Jonah's job to lose. Let me explain how cool this is for the Bengals for a second. Can I just explain for a second?
Yeah.
Go off, son.
So in Jonah's mind, Jonah saw himself as a left tackle. He played 1 year at right tackle at the University of Alabama and played pretty damn well, I'll say. Now, Jonah thought in his mind he was a left tackle. He requested a trade. They put feelers out there. They said they wanted to see if teams had interest in him around the league as a left tackle. Guess what? Teams said, you're probably a right tackle, or we're going to kick you inside. So this is good for Jonah. This is good for the Bengals. Why? Because it's almost like tough love, right? Hey, buddy, I promise you around the league, you're not a left tackle, right? So how about we just make the transition and make you the right tackle this year? Because that's what most of the league is going to see you at, right? Some people in the league might even see you as a guard, but we think you could be a starting right tackle on the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, with this reality check for him, and now his mentality, it allows his mentality to change a little bit because he's like, okay, teams around the league do not see me as a left tackle. The Bengals see me as a right tackle. Teams around the league might see me as a right tackle, but a lot of teams around the league see me as a guard. Now that my mentality changed, I can put all my eggs in a basket and focus on being the right tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals. So if you go out and you have a great year, the Bengals will 100% extend Jonah Williams. And because Jonah already knows how he's viewed around the National Football League, I'm not saying he's going to have a great year. I'm just saying.
Terrified a lot of Bengals fans by saying re-sign Jonah
I'm just
Williams.
saying if he winds up having a good season at right tackle.
Yeah.
Well, why would you leave the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that believed in you from the get-go and said, hey, you're a right tackle, for a team that might try to move you to guard, because certainly they don't see you as a left tackle around the league. It's almost like it's a good thing that he requested a trade and got a chance to see what he was viewed as around the league. I don't know. That's how I view the Jonah Williams things. I'm really curious to hear what your opinions are on the situation. Evan and Jules, do you guys think it's a good thing that Jonah finally says, okay, I'm going to play right tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals?
I mean, I would say it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, this is a guy that has experience starting on the Bengals line. He knows the coaching staff. He knows,
Mhm.
I don't know. What do you think, Ev?
No, I think you're right. I think there might be a case of the grass is always greener for
Yeah.
both sides,
Yeah.
right? For what does the other side of Jonah Williams look like? Okay, well, if he leaves, then you might have to slate a rookie in there. You might have to overpay a tackle, like we saw many tackles get overpaid in free agency this year. It's not always going to be lucking into a top 12 or 15 or 10 tackle at an extreme discount, at a 30% discount.
Don't forget Lyle Collins.
I'm not forgetting Lyle Collins. I'm just saying, but that's the thing is, if you're talking about what's the future like after Jonah Williams for the Bengals, it would be Lyle Collins, maybe overpaid free agent, maybe rookie. And we know how rookies struggle when they come into the league generally. You got to be a very unique individual. 3, 4, 5 tackles go every year in the first round, and usually only 1 or 2 of them are good out of the gate. So it would be difficult to feel confident putting a rookie out there. And the same way you said for Jonah Williams, that, for him, it's easy to say, hey, yeah, I might get a bigger deal out on the free agent market. But at the same time, the Bengals might be willing to say, hey, if you're coming back at a reasonable cost, at a team-friendly deal, we'll guarantee more of that money. We'll sign you to a longer-term extension. They will be willing to work things out with him. And like you said, it's easy to say, oh, yeah, I'll go to this other place and make more money. But at the same time, you don't know if you're going to fit in with that coaching staff. What if that coaching staff only has 1 year left, maybe, and then suddenly they disappear, and then you're stuck and saddled with a guy on a new scheme that you don't feel like you fit well, but you're stuck there for the next 2 or 3 years, or you might get cut if they don't feel like you're worth having around.
Right.
So I definitely think that there are benefits to both sides for trying to find a way forward if things work out well for everybody.
I agree. It's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out.
Mhm.
I feel like we spent a lot of time talking about the draft, and there's certainly so much more that we could probably get into, but we'll save that for a later day, because I know I definitely want to talk more about the Titans drafting Will Levis and what the future of Ryan Tannehill holds, but I won't get into that today. Well, we won't get into that because I feel like that's going to be a long discussion.
Yeah.
Now, unless you guys want to get into it, we can get into it, or we can go to the Curry topic. It's up to you guys.
I got a lot for the Curry topic.
All right.
I was going to say, I could take care of the Ryan Tannehill conversation in about 20 seconds if you want me to.
Yeah.
You want to?
I don't think it's that long of
All
a
right.
conversation.
Ryan Tannehill, probably on the roster this year, unless Will Levis comes out in camp and just absolutely blows everybody away and says, hey, I'm here, I'm ready, right? They said he's starting off on 3rd in the depth chart, which we know coaches just say that stuff, and we know they're pretty much out on Malik Willis anyways. But at this point, you're only going to save about $18 million if you cut him. No one is going to trade for a $36 million Ryan Tannehill. I mean, even if you get a quarterback injured, are you saying, oh, we go get Ryan Tannehill and that'll save our season? Like, probably not. You're probably not giving up assets for that. So between all that, I think he's on the team for this year, the final year of his deal. He's going to be 35 years old in July, so 36 by the time next season rolls around. The answer is, what's the future hold for Ryan Tannehill? It's retirement or backup. Who's going to want to go pay this guy $28, $30 million a year, or 25 is what Jimmy got on average per year? Who's going to want to go pay this guy at 36 years old and actually try and act like they're being competitive, or they're even trying? Who is going, Ryan Tannehill is the answer to what we need right now? I can't think of a single team. I don't see how that's a solution for anybody. So those were my thoughts on that. Ryan Tannehill has done a wonderful second half of his career resurgence. Good for him. Very glad that he got to turn around the kind of perception on him. But at the same time, only the good ones play till almost 40.
Yeah.
So that's
Evan said retire, man.
Man,
he
he
said
packed
go
him up.
retire.
Yeah, I agree with Evan.
He
That's
packed-
pretty much all I had, is that he's got 1 more year. It's not like Levis is going to come out and start unless he
Man,
kicks butt in camp. But I mean,
they just packed them up. They packed Ryan Tannehill up quick, man.
yeah,
Anyway.
Sad sight.
Is it though?
Well, like I
Yeah.
feel bad. I'm just too nice.
Well, let's keep the conversation rolling. We're gonna make this our last topic right here. We have so much more. I guess we'll just carry that over into next week's show. But here's the last thing I want to talk about really quickly. There's growing chatter now. And it's been growing for years. I feel like people have been waiting to just make this statement and make this argument. But the chatter is Steph Curry. Steph Curry is the greatest point guard of all time. That's what people are saying now. That is what the word is on the Twitter streets and in the NBA circles. That's what people are saying. So it makes that a question. Before we get into that, again, make sure you guys give this video a like. Make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And turn on post notifications. We greatly appreciate your support because we can't do any of this without you guys and the right people over at First Star Logistics. Because, again, we are live from the First Star Logistics studio here again. So I want to have this discussion with you guys. Is Steph Curry or Wardell, right? That's his first name, right? Is he the greatest point guard of all time? Evan and I have been chatting a lot. Jules, I know you have sat back, you have listened, you've been patient.
She's ready to
Jules,
pounce.
cook.
I'm ready. I'm ready to cook, and this could go really good. This could go really bad. I feel like I'm a little scared. Never in my life as a Cavs fan did I think I would vouch for Steph Curry. I don't like Steph Curry, and the reason why is because he's good. He cooked my team for years, and I don't like it. But anyways, I think he's top 3, and he ain't 2 or 3. That's all I'm going to say for that sentence. And you're already doubting me. He's a more dangerous point guard. He has more range than anyone. You can't deny that. And he also completely changed how basketball is played on every level. NBA, college, high school. It's all about the 3-point. Obviously, you've seen it everywhere. There's people that hate that it changed that way, and there's people that love it. It's more exciting, in my opinion. But what I think most people agree on that he is the best point guard because he creates his own shots. And if we're really going to compare him to Magic Johnson, Steph Curry's more of a scorer, while Johnson is more of a playmaker. So it depends what kind of person you would want on your team. I would choose Steph Curry to start my team if it's like top 5 of all time. I want Steph Curry on my team because he makes baskets, and that's ultimately the most important thing in basketball is to score, and he does that, and he does a damn good job of it. So that's what I'm going to say for now. I'm going to save some of it for the rebuttal after I get flamed. Because I have like 2 pages worth.
Who's to say you're going to get flamed, though? Who's to say you're going to get
Everyone
I'm
might
used
agree.
to being
Everyone
wrong.
might agree.
We all
Hey,
might agree that Wardell Curry is the greatest point guard of all time. Some people even saying, take the point out. He's the greatest guard of all time. That's what some people are saying. But you know what's funny? There's a guy that played guard that people consider the GOAT, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, right? So I think that would be kind of crazy if people were to say that he's better than Michael Jordan.
No.
Right? I mean, right? So I think that you have to keep the point guard.
Yeah,
I
you
guess,
do. Because Michael.
in this discussion. But Evan, let Ev cook.
Oh, God. He's going to bring out the numbers.
Steph had a fantastic game. 4-time champion, 2-time MVP, first-time unanimous MVP. We know how good he's been, right? At the same time, I think we got to give our props to Oscar Robertson.
Yes.
I think we got to give
That
our
ball
props
right
to Magic
there
Johnson.
behind Jules is signed by Mr. Triple Double himself.
Oh, that's dope.
That man was not just a scorer, was a rebounder, was a defender, was a playmaker. And I feel like Steph, I'm not trying to bash on Steph because I feel like his playmaking does get underrated a little bit because of how good he is scoring the ball. There's a little bit of offset in the total points. I know he averages more points than all of these guys, but the point of that also is that the 3-ball has become a lot more prevalent. The game today, you're shooting tens of 20 or 30 more 3-pointers than you would have back in the early 80s, back when you would have Magic Johnson playing, back when you would have Oscar Robertson playing. So there's a little bit of difference in scoring potential, and the defense was also, you could get away with a lot more physically. stuff that would be technicals, flagrant fouls, everything else, you could just get away with as common fouls. The defense was a little bit different, and that's why it's so hard to compare these guys from different eras because the play styles are so different. I definitely see this as kind of the conversation that we have with when we say, like, what are the top 5 wide receivers in the NFL? I feel like you almost have to say here's 3 to 5 guys, and I can feel like you can put them in any order with a good argument. I definitely think Steph is an incredible scorer. I don't know if he was quite the level of defender that those guys were. And that's not to discredit Steph Curry, who led the NBA in steals in 2016, but there's just a little bit more to it to that I feel like those guys had more well-rounded games as playmakers, as defenders, and we're just a little bit more on the playmaking side because you had guys like Steve Nash, like John Stockton. Steph plays so differently than all these guys because he's been asked to be that scorer, and it's just tough when all of these guys were such great pure playmakers. So I guess it really depends when you ask who's the greatest point guard. It's what style do you see as the point guard is supposed to play? Because if you think it's the person who sets up the offense and runs it and gets everybody involved and gets the most out of everybody and gets a lot of assists and creates a lot of opportunities for people, then I can see the argument for it not being Steph Curry. But then you can also argue that just his gravity being on the court, even if he's not getting assists, his gravity and the threat of him shooting is like an assist because of all the defensive attention it pulls away from other people. So I can understand a lot of these different sides of this argument. I definitely think that those 5 guys I named are kind of in that conversation, but I definitely think Steph, Oscar, Magic would be like my top 3, and I can hear an argument for any of those guys.
Yeah, man, I definitely hear that. I just think that when you think about it, though, Magic Johnson, and when you talk about Magic Johnson, he isn't just considered the greatest point guard of all time. He's talked about as one of the greatest players of all time. I think Steph Curry is the greatest scorer at the point guard position of all time. He has revolutionized the game of basketball. He has transformed the way people play. People will shoot baskets from the logo, from the top of the key. Does not matter. They will just hit threes like crazy nowadays. And Steph Curry has really changed the way people play the game. So I think you got to give him props for that. I do think that there are areas in Steph Curry's game in which if we're talking about him as the greatest point guard of all time, we have to talk about his game in totality. I think he's gotten better as a defender, but I don't think he is up to the level of some of these other guys from a defending standpoint. I don't think that he's not the best passer when it comes to like the Magic Johnson thing. Like to Jules' point, the playmaking aspect of that it takes to be considered the greatest point guard of all time. But I think when you talk about from a scoring standpoint, he certainly is. He certainly is. And I understand why people put him in that argument and why people have been saying that as of late.
Just to tack onto your point too on the defense, even the year that he led the league in steals, he's never been on an all NBA team on defense.
Wow.
Not one, not first, second, third team defense.
I guess it's just an underrated stat, right? I guess it's one of those things where it's kind of
just kind of goes on to and that's again because you see all these other things. He's a 4-time All NBA first team, 3-time All NBA second team, and an All NBA third team in 2018. It's the accolades are there, but at the same time, like you said, if we want to look at the totality, the whole picture here, then that is something where you say, hey, that's an area where we haven't seen him be top of the league. Not even just like one of the best defenders, just like one of the better defenders.
Right.
So I feel like that's an important part of the conversation.
I agree with you. But again, I guess it's all about people's taste and what they look for in the point guard position. I just know that once the guy finally hangs it up, it's gonna be one of those things where we're all gonna miss his game. We're all gonna miss his game. But I also think it's one of those things where it's gonna stand the test of time. It has changed the game of basketball in the NBA. And like I said, I'm just enjoying this. I'm looking forward to the Warriors taking on the Lakers. I think the Lakers are going to win that series personally. I just think that I don't really see a lot of teams in the West giving the Lakers too many problems. We kind of talked about that, and I guess we'll save that for another show, another topic. It'll be interesting though.
It will be interesting.
I also want to talk about the First Star Logistics annual Bengals draft party, the inaugural First Star Logistics annual Bengals draft party that took place at the Great American Ballpark, the Handlebar. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody at the Reds for helping us out with this entire event. I want to thank, incredible people at First Star Logistics who did a fantastic job, behind the scenes, on even some people on camera. It was an honor working alongside Brad Johansson, Joe Goodberry, Dave Lapham, Evan McPhillips. The list goes on. It was a fantastic time, and it was the inaugural. It was just the first one, and I can't wait for next year's one. We're going to bring it to you guys. It was just absolutely fantastic. And if those of you who are new to the channel or just who subscribed after they saw the draft party, just want to run down the schedule for you guys. I go live for shows a couple times a week. So every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, it's the Sit Down with Malik, right? Where we talk about everything in sports, NFL, NBA, UFC, boxing, whatever is going on in sports is big. We'll talk about it. Tuesdays is the Right Bet, which is our betting show presented by First Star Logistics and sponsored by the sportsbook betting partner of the show, Betfred Sportsbook. That happens on Tuesday, on noon on Tuesdays. And then on Wednesdays, State of the Jungle. So if you're a Bengals fan, you can tune in to that every single 7 p.m. Eastern time where we talk all things, nothing else but Cincinnati Bengals. But on Mondays, if you guys enjoy this show, I'm here each and every single week with Jules and Evan, and we're talking about everything. Those of you who don't know, Jules is a huge Reds fan.
Yeah, I love the Reds.
Evan
They're the
is
best.
a Heat fan. Me, I'm a Boston Celtics
Kevin
fan.
Love.
And I since we're mentioning people behind the scenes, I can't do it without my guy. He's been awesome. He's the person that makes this whole thing tick.
Meh.
And he makes our job very easy. Got Daniel Alameda.
He makes
who's
great
the
coffee.
producer of the show.
Meh.
And Daniel, just like I said, man, we thank you so much. We thank you so much, man, for the work that you do and the work that
you
put
make
in
me
to
tear
the
up.
show,
Thank you.
the show tick. If you guys can do us a huge favor, give this video a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Show Daniel the support and the love, man.
No,
Yeah.
I'm
Puts in a
okay.
lot
I'm
He
okay.
He needs
deserves
more
it.
love in his life.
Nope.
to make
Makes
this
start
it
giving him
success.
love
He's
before every
making me
show.
like coffee. I hate coffee, and Daniel made me like it. So
Hey.
that just tells you.
Hey,
He's a
that's
great guy.
That's why. That's
Now-
all I need.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So,
my calling
put that on
card.
your
if
resume.
you guys are into betting, tomorrow we'll be back. That's strictly on my Twitter for the Right Bet. If you guys want to tell some of our bets and our plays that we have for you guys, make sure you guys tune into the Right Bet every single Tuesday at noon. But on Wednesday, State of the Jungle, we're back, baby. We're back. And we'll be talking about all the Bengals draft picks in detail and talking about where they fit on this team. But again, we hope to see you guys back here next Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern time for the Sit Down with Malik Wright, the Sit Down with Evan McPhillips, the Sit Down with Not So Cool's Jules.
Not so cool, Jules.
And
Go Reds.
Evan and Daniel
got it
Alameda
in.
on the ones and twos behind the scenes, making this whole thing tick. Anyway, we hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you guys for tuning in with us. Give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow First Star Logistics, and we are out. We'll see you guys next time